John loses his head. Jesus feeds more than Gordon Ramsay and then commences a walking on the water. Today, on another episode of the Bible in 1 year with the preacher's husband. Today we're going through Matthew chapter 14, Mark chapter 6, and Luke chapter 9, verse 1 through 17. Yeah, all of them. Then tomorrow, we're going to do John chapter 6. That's it, just a little old chapter 6 tomorrow. So, let's see what the Bible has in store for us today. So here we are at a time when Herod the Tetrarch heard the report about Jesus. So here we are. Now this Herod Antipas guy, he was the son of Herod the Great, and he ruled as a tetrarch of Galilee and Perea from about 4 BC until he was banished for seeking the kingship in 39 AD. So in general, a tetrarch was about one step below an ethnarch. So an ethnarch was here, a tetrarch was here, and then the king was about right here. So Herod Antipas was about 2 steps below the king, but that's neither here nor there. Now John here, he was arrested because he criticized Herod's illicit marriage to his brother's wife, which was Herodias, and her daughter was named Salome. Now Herodias' daughter Salome danced really erotically for her uncle Herod one time, and this seems to entice a drunken Herod to make an oath that he would later regret. Now, at her mother's coercing, Salome asked Herod, when Herod said, "I'll give you anything that you want." And of course, this was a bad move. And she says, "Well, I want John the Baptist's head on a platter." So he's a little afraid. He's like, "Oh no, this is not good. But he did it anyway. He said, "Okay, fine." So he had John beheaded while he was in prison and had the head brought to her right then. And Herodias clearly preferred beheading as a means of execution so she could display John's head as a trophy, as you see here on your screen in this picture. Now, there was a miracle that was happening just down the street. Of course, this is when Jesus feeds the 5,000, which I don't know that Gordon Ramsay's ever fed that many people. That's a bunch of folks, but we'll get to that. Now, the loaves of bread that he used and the small fish were staple foods in Galilee, and the loaves were actually the size of little dinner rolls that we would see today. In John's description that we're going to read about tomorrow about the fish, it indicates that they were either dried or pickled fish that we'll read about in chapter 6, verse 9. He also identified the loaves as made of barley, which was the food of the poor people. He implied that the loaves and fish were small since they were sufficient only for one boy's lunch. Now, you must keep in mind here that this miracle is literally the only miracle of Jesus that is recorded by all 4 Gospels. All the rest of them were in 1 or 2 or 3, but not in 4. A true miracle is clearly expressed by the words, "Everyone ate and was satisfied." Now, normally, a few small loaves and fish divided among so many people would provide each person with about a teeny tiny crumb, if you think about all them people that were there. However, everyone ate until they were satisfied, and the disciples collected all the leftovers. When they did, they had over 12 baskets full of leftovers, which serves as a very powerful reminder of Jesus' ability to provide abundance for his disciples. Now, in John's Gospel that we'll read tomorrow shows that many bystanders compared Jesus' miracles to God's provision of manna in the wilderness, and also the miracle that this closely resembles in the Old Testament is that of Elisha in 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 42 through 44. Now, although the miracle is referred to as the feeding of the 5,000 here, you got to keep in mind that they only counted the men. It even states in Matthew's version that 5,000 men besides women and children. So the number could have been as high as 15,000 or more. So Jesus' miracle was far greater than that one that was performed by Elisha in the Old Testament in 2 Kings. Now, Jesus at this point is commencing a walking on the water. There he is. He ain't even sinking. So, the word ghost here, see the disciples, they were on the boat and Jesus was on the land, and they see this figure coming towards them, and they say this was like, they were scared at first. They're like, what is this, a ghost? And the word ghost here in Greek was phantasma, which was used in Greek literature to describe dream visions or spirit apparitions. Now, in the Old Testament, a closely related term referred to a dream or vision in which one saw something that may not be real. So when they first saw this, they couldn't believe that this was really happening. So he walks on the water, and I found it interesting that only Matthew's version that we've seen so far, out of the 3 that we read today, mentions Peter talking about Jesus and saying, Lord, if it's you, command me to come to you on the water. And Jesus said, come. And then Peter climbs out of the boat and starts walking on the water toward Jesus. And then he starts to get scared because of all the winds and the waves. And he starts to sink, and he says, Lord, save me. And Jesus immediately reaches his hand and caught hold of him and brings him up and says, you have little faith. Why did you doubt? So his doubt caused him to sink. And then, of course, he says, truly you are the Son of God. And of course, we go on to some miraculous healings after that in each of these versions. And he goes to a town called Gennesaret, which was located on the northwestern shore of the Sea of Galilee, which was about 5 miles south of Capernaum. Now, the people here were apparently aware of the healing of the woman in Matthew 9, verse 20. And this miracle occurred in nearby Capernaum. And it kind of set a precedent for healing by touching the end of his robe, because they would go and they would run up to Jesus and touch his robe, and they just knew that they would be healed if they could just touch his robe. So clearly they knew about this previous miracle that he had performed. I hope that this has helped you in your studies today. If it has, of course, click that like button, subscribe button, click the little jingle bell so you get notified the next time I upload a video. Also, if you're rumbling with me on Rumble, hit that little boxing glove. And I'll see you again tomorrow for another episode of the Bible in 1 Year with the Preacher's Husband. We'll see you then.